Yo, this is Alex Mouth of Destiny, and today we have the great pleasure of speaking with Tobi Alder. This is a man that I greatly respect for. He's not only a very serious lifter, but he is dedicated to the natural iron game. So I'm honored to have him
Indeed.
here today. We've been speaking for many years on and off, in the comment section. He's always been supportive, and it's great to be chatting with him. And he's going to share his knowledge and wisdom on natural strength training and how to get big and just how to become an ultimate beast and maximize your potential. So welcome aboard, Toby.
Thank you, Alex. Great to be here. I'm honored.
Yeah. I think the first thing that I want to ask you and what most people will be curious about is what are some of your best lifting numbers and when did you start lifting?
Gym lifts. I've done a 405 pause bench. I've done a 600 low bar squat belt and sleeves. I've done a 515 front squat belt and sleeves. And these are all pounds. I've done a 750 for 2 reps deadlift, beltless with straps, dead stop reps. I've done 700 for 4 reps on deadlift. I've done a 365-pound pause incline bench, 500 pounds for 7 reps, high bar squat, no belt and sleeves, aka no knee wraps, just belt and sleeves. Easy 315-pound strict rows for 5 sets of 10, 500 pounds for 7 reps on sheet rows, and 405 for 15 reps on sheet rows. And some bodyweight lifts. When I weighed 250, I did a 180-pound chin-up for 1 rep. I did a 200-pound dip for 1 rep. I've done a 100-pound for 3 reps on each leg, pulse pistol squat, 2 sets of 1 of 25-pound handstand push-ups for 1 rep, and that 25-pound weight vest for indexes to a wall. What else have I done?
This is already impressive.
And I've done a 315-pound bench press for 12 reps and 2 more lifts. I've done a 275-pound standing strict military press, overhead press, and 225 for 8 reps. Those are some of my lifts.
Those lifts are absolutely incredible. And I'm sure anyone who's listening carefully is blown away right now. So we're going to talk about all those lifts today and how to bring up the majority of them. At least we're gonna discuss the big 3 or the big 5, if you will, and dive into more details about that. So that's people.
And I'll even throw in, I know you like unconventional lifts, so I'll even throw in a few of them.
Fantastic.
Well, let me see. Headstand wrestling bridge, as in just rolling back and forth on the headstand against the wall. I've done 110 pounds of weighted vest for like 28 reps, or I think 28, 24. And all these videos are on my YouTube and Instagram.
Right.
And I've done Captain of Crush grippers, 2.5 gripper for 18 reps. And I've done a 380-pound country crush in my latest grip sport competition. And I've done a 200-pound rolling thunder, 200 or 205, one of them.
Fantastic. So how long did it take for you to reach these lifts? In other words, what is your lifting background and how many years have you been training for?
Well, I would say a little over 10 years. Well, the first year when I started seriously training, it was August 2008. It was calisthenics for 1 year because I didn't have a gym membership. I didn't know what to do. So I was like, all right, I'll do push-ups, pull-ups, pistol squats. I even trained neck.
Nice.
I even did a wrestler's bridge, and I've done some jump rope here or there and sit-ups. I've done that for 1 year. Sometimes even weighted, but mostly body weight. I've done that from August 2008 to August 2009. And then September 2009, I entered my senior year of high school. That's when I really took off the training. I was focusing on SATs and getting into college. January 2010. And that's when I was allowed to lift. Otherwise, they won't let you lift if you're not in the weight room and not on the football team because not enough people to watch. Since the football team was able to lift January 2010 and I had my license, after school I would always be able to drive myself to the gym, and then I would start my barbell powerlifting training for real since January 2010. So it was I would say I'm going to include the calisthenics years, the calisthenic 1 year, because with the calisthenic year, that's when I first gained muscle and strength. That I could have even done weights after the 1 year and gotten stronger, even with the hiatus. And after the hiatus, I already built some basic strength when I started January 2010.
Okay. When you were done your calisthenics transformation, how jacked would you say you were?
I actually got a lot of muscle. I would say even went from my arms even grew an inch, I would say. And I actually had a typical beach body. Except my legs were pretty big, but not that cut. But I definitely got jacked with it.
Right.
I was pretty aesthetic.
And would you say that calisthenics played a major role in transitioning into weight training? Because when you were heavier, right, you were doing crazy wrestler bridges and 180-pound weighted pull-ups. So is it possible that having that background enabled you to become more proficient, like in the future?
It helps with my weights, actually, and not just helps with the weights. It helps with the aesthetics, and it helps with building muscle. I believe you need a balance of both the weights and calisthenics. The calisthenics is functional because basically you're moving your body weight with calisthenics, and it's just controlling your body, and you're also building muscle with calisthenics too. That's why you see a lot of these calisthenic athletes sans the aka minus them doing squats and
Right.
calves. They have crazy upper body developments. They have good abs. They have good back, even better than people who lift weights in general, or your average person who goes to the gym,
Right.
because they already have that background.
Yes. So when you were done your calisthenics, obviously you had gained a good amount of muscle. You were pretty fit, typical beach body. How strong were you at the weights upon lifting for your first time?
I benched 215 pounds. And of course, it was touch and go. So I added 80 pounds on my bench and only adding 10 pounds of body weight.
Mm-hmm.
And my squat, just from doing pistols, squatted, I would say 295 pounds in a belt. Actually, no, I don't think I used the belt. Just 295 pounds parallel. Actually, parallel. It was pretty deep. And sumo deadlift, believe it or not, I was doing double overhand and with chalk. I was working on my grip. I did a 345 sumo deadlift,
Okay.
and that was even my best deadlift even because I remember calisthenics during my hiatus November. I went to the gym. I did 405, and of course I also was I don't know if it was mixed grip or double overhand, but I did 405 pretty easily, and then that was conventional, and then I failed 410 afterward.
Okay.
So I went from 410 in November to 345 sumo in starting January. And I'd switch to sumo because every time I did conventional, I'd get back pain.
Okay. So given what you just told me, how you train certain variations and you might include accessories or not, depending on how you feel, what type of routine would you recommend for a natural seeking maximum strength and size? Full body, upper, lower, lift a day? Like, what do you feel works best for you? And we're talking about being past the novice phase here now.
I just use any program that gets you results. So it could be anything. All of them work. That's my philosophy. Whatever gets you stronger, whatever achieves your goals. So whatever works. What works for me currently, I like the exercise splits the best.
Okay, so like, let's say Monday it's a squat day, Tuesday it's a bench day, Wednesday a deadlift day, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, and how often would you be performing these lifts? Like, how many days a week are you squatting, deadlifting, benching?
I mean, it varies, but just because of my nagging injuries, this is how I do it. I have 3 upper body days and a squat day and a deadlift day. And then when I had the grip competition, I would have a grip day. And then when I was doing a deadlift variation like sumo deadlifts, I was having a hamstring day for a while.
So in total, it's like you're at least lifting 5 days a week type of deal, right? Like you're in the gym quite frequently.
Like 5 days a week at minimum.
How many hours are the workouts split by? Say by the bench press. Is it like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday type setup?
I bench, let me see, Saturday. I overhead press Monday. And I incline bench Wednesday.
Okay.
And each of those days I do a back variation. And sometimes I do a uh, another press variation, whether it's a body weight exercise or something else,
Okay.
like maybe a dumbbell exercise or something.
Okay. So you bench 3 times a week. Each is a different variation, and sometimes you incorporate a secondary press into that workout. What about the percentages and the volume and intensity? Is it more of like a heavy, light, medium setup?
I mean, I don't go by percentages or anything. I just go by how I feel.
Okay.
I auto-regulate.
So let's say I wanted to run this routine. What would it look like ideally?
All right, for strength even,
Yeah.
your 10 rep max on bench press is 225. You'll start with, let's see, 8 by 3 with 225. Then next week, 7 by 4, 225. Next week, 6 by 5, 225. The week after, 5 by 6, 225.
Okay.
And if you could peak, maybe 4 by 7, 225. And then if you could do one more week, end it with like a 3 by 8 with 225. And then you could slowly add weight. Maybe take away a rep each time. Maybe add like 10, 15, or 20 pounds
Okay.
to like 240, 235, or 245. Repeat. Just take away a rep.
Okay. And this would be for all 3 days of the benching, or just like
Just depends on the certain weight. Like this is what I've done. Since I'm doing higher reps now, I started with 4 sets of 10 with 185. Then the next week I've done 5 sets of 10 with 185. Week after, 4 sets of 11. The week after, 5 sets of 11. Then 4 sets of 12, 5 sets of 12. Now I'm currently on 4 sets of 15. Next is 5 sets of 15. The goal is to get 5 sets of 20 after I get 4 sets of 20.
okay.
So, which will boost the reps. And then I'm going to add 20 pounds to my 185 and get to 205.
Okay.
And the goal is ideally to get 5 sets of 20 with 205. But I might end up getting maybe 5 sets of 17 with 205. And then I go up to 225. And say I don't get 5 sets of 20 with 205 and I get it 225. If not, then I might get like 5 sets of 15 to 17 reps with 225. And then it continues that way.
Okay, I see. So when you're trying to get a lot stronger, it's kind of the opposite, where you're starting off with like higher sets, but then it gradually tapers down. Whereas with more of this volume type training, it's the opposite, where you're actually increasing the sets very gradually.
I mean, with this style I'm doing now, I'm only increasing like 1 or 2 sets, but I'm increasing the reps. As in, I gradually am increasing the reps every other workout.
Okay.
So every other week, I'm increasing the reps. I'm trying to get stupid high reps,
Okay.
which is also why I'm building this stupid high hypertrophy so far.
Okay, excellent. Now, in regards to the strength work, the template that you gave me earlier, does it always look like that, where you're changing the sets a little bit, either increasing it or decreasing, and the reps go up a little bit too? You said you auto-regulated, but is it always going up and down with the sets and reps?
It's mainly going up with the sets and reps, and then until I peak, I stop, and then I lower it. Then I lower the sets and reps, and as I increase the weight because the weight's heavier.
Okay.
And then normally after a new cycle or something, I add like a rep or 2 or 3 to my old rep maxes, either if it's a straight set or volume
Okay.
with the same weight.
But you're also an elite lifter, right? So 1 to 2 reps for you is like something, right?
It takes a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
It'll be a blessing. I take every ounce of progress I could get.
Right. So like, I want to talk about the bench press real quick. What was your max again?
My max is 405 with the pause. Gym lift, ass off the bench. I've done 425.
Okay.
It came up easy, but I'm counting the 405.
Right. I remember seeing your clips on Instagram, right, where you were building up to that, and you were doing stuff with 315, were you not? And then you built up to like 315 for 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like what was your max before you hit that 405, and how long did it take you to build up to it?
Honestly, my max before I built that 405 was 385. 2 years to break that 385 and get that 405.
You must have been really proud of, because that's like, many people consider that to be like the ultimate natural achievement in a sense. You know, it says something, especially for you, because like your main lift, I would say, is your deadlift, right? I would.
It is.
Yeah,
Actually.
that's what you really excel at, and typically speaking, those who are very good at deadlifts tend to have like longer arms. And when I look at you pull, you seem to have good leverages for it. So that's usually the opposite of a good bencher. So that in itself speaks volumes, you know, on the patience and the hard work that you have to put in to get that 405 in the first place.
Correct. I mean, I wasn't built to bench at all. It's the least lift I was built for, and the least, I mean, genetically, I would say I'm a all right, strong guy. I mean, I would say above average genetics, but it's just the fact that I focus on this more than anything else I focus on in
Right.
life. And not so that alone beat genetics for me. And plus, as far as bench, it's not like I was a gifted bencher. In fact, I would say I'm below average in the bench
Really? Okay.
department. Some would even argue that I had to weigh like 259 pounds to bench 405 for the first time. But at the same time, I was a below average bencher and below average bench genetics, and I had to do it naturally. Again, push-ups were always hard for me. Chin-ups were easy for me, but I couldn't do push-ups to save my life.
Right.
That even back in the first grade, it was a first grade gym class. Push-up was like one of the only exercises I couldn't even get one rep at. So
That's
it
crazy.
was a big deal, the 405.
Okay, so then I guess we should talk about natural strength standards and all that, which I'm sure you have a lot to say, because you're saying that your bench was pretty much one of your weakest lifts, and you were never really good at push-ups or pushing in general. Yet you managed to build up to this impressive number over a very long period of time with patience and hard work and all that. So when people say that, say a max bench for the average lifter is 315, what are your comments on that?
I personally think if you're willing to put enough time, like if not 5 years, 10 years, or even 20 years, if you're able to dedicate yourself enough, or if no matter how bad your genetics, or if you're willing to gain enough weight, even without getting too fat, if you're willing to gain enough weight, if you're willing to, as in you can still be fit. Don't have to be a fat ass
Right.
doing this. Sorry for my language,
Don't worry
but
about it.
you don't have to be fat. You don't have to be fat to do it. You could still be in shape. You could, if it doesn't take 5 years, it doesn't take 10 years. It'll take however long if you stay dedicated, no matter how bad your genetics are. And you could you just gain enough weight, even if it's 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds, put into time and correct training. I think every male could get a 315-pound bench. I mean, there are females getting it nowadays too, and some of them even natural, I guess, and more power to them. That's respectable. I feel like every male could do it if they put enough time and are willing to gain enough weight
Okay.
while still being in shape.
Okay. So if every male is willing to do what it takes, they can hit a 315, right? But let's say, because when you say every, right, that also factors in the below average. So let's say on average then, for your regular Joe, right, what could they do? Do you think it's higher than 315, maybe 365? Or would it be closer to 405 for a lot of people, if they're willing to put in the work?
I think a lot of people are stronger than they realize, especially if they get into it. So I think it could be anywhere between. Honestly, I think the lower end of the spectrum, maybe 225, 275. The higher end of the spectrum between 315, 405, and who knows? I mean, I'm nobody special at all with bench. There are people who could get more than 405, maybe even 500 naturally, if they could, maybe even a little above 500.
Yeah.
It's all possible.
Yeah, well, we've seen it before with some lifters. It's not a common feat of strength, but it has happened, you know? And usually what I see is
Yeah.
they tend to be heavier guys as well. and they've been training for a
Yeah,
long time, like usually older gentlemen.
correct.
Yeah.
Even 600 is possible for natural, depending on the older one doing it for a long time correctly and genetics. Some people are just anomalies of anomalies. If you think I'm an anomaly, there are people even more anomaly than I am.
Yeah.
Maybe very few though that are like benching maybe 600. And there was one going after a world record bench only guy benching 700. He's also obese. I would take he's natural
Okay.
because he only benches and he's just
Yeah.
there are a lot of anomalies. Then the thing people would realize that it's internet. On internet, it seems like everyone is strong, everyone is stronger than you, but this is still a very small population. If you look at yourself and you're hitting these big numbers and stuff, people like me and you, we're still the top 0.1% of the population when it comes to looks
Right.
and strength.
Right.
So the people, the internet, if we're the top 0.1%, these people we see are the top 0.1% of the internet,
Right.
which is the 0.1% of the 0.1% of the world in
Exactly.
the strength.
I think that is an excellent point.
People don't realize.
That is a really good point because people they're used to seeing the best of the best all the time, and then someone who actually is very strong, it's like it's seen as unimpressive by comparison, not recognizing that
Exactly.
it's like a division, it's like a class system where you have like the super elites and then the elites, but that still makes you part of the elite, if you will, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have guys who are very strong and they think that they're weak because they're comparing themselves to like the higher tiers, which is really, as you pointed out, like there's the 1%, then there's like even beyond that. So it's interesting how everything's interconnected in a sense.
You hit the nail on the head. That used to be me too for the longest time. I for the longest time, which actually helped me a lot. My goal was to be as strong as most of the, I guess, I would say drug lifters, as in
Yeah.
eventually compete with them or hit the numbers they were hitting when they were teenagers. But I wanted to do that as a natural. And then once I hit those goals as a natural, maybe if I was 35 or 40, take the drugs, be the best in the world, possibly have a bad death from the drugs. But I don't think that's the route I want to.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not the route I'm going anymore. I matured.
Right.
I was gonna wait a long time. To even my people who want me to go on the stuff are like, man, you're boring. Just go on it now. I'm like, no, I'm gonna wait till I'm 35 and 40, get the strongest man in the world title, and then bad drug death. But that's not me anymore.
Right.
I matured from that. I'm gonna. I have a better story to tell with, and that's not how I want to go out. I want to go out with as the guy who really. I mean, not. I don't want to bash anyone who's not natural. That's their decision. They have to do what they have to do to be world champion.
Right.
And unfortunately, in the sports world and in strength sports, to be world champion, you have to take drugs. But I'm not trying to be world champion. I'm just trying to fulfill my natural potential, trying to uh, see what my body's capable of without drugs, trying to make human art with my
Right.
body. Because I see it as art. I see the lifts as art. I see the body as art. And I already am building something good without drugs. I don't really need drugs to do it. And I'm also just trying to spread that message of being comfortable with what you have. Don't go into that world of not being happy with what you already have or what God already blessed you with, what God already has given you. You could have natural ways to improve on it because with the information I give, it's for the common person. The common person could still get results. The common person could still improve themselves without drugs or going. I mean, drugs cost a lot of money too.
Right.
So you don't. I mean, you could just have information, the good information. You could just do in the comfort of some equipment, some good training programs, some food. You could be fit. You don't have to inject all that stuff. You don't have to because the measures, some of them, it's expensive. The measures some of them have to do to get the drugs, it's not really an honorable way, especially if you don't have the money or a good pharmacy for it. So it's better to, I mean, it just takes a lot of time too. A lot of people don't have the patience for it, and they're easily, I guess, they feel overshadowed when they see all these freaks of nature that we all love to see
Right.
in the strength sports and in sports in general. Everyone wants to see freaks of nature. Everyone wants to see someone special, and they feel like they want to do that too. So without building a base, even they hop on the drugs.
Exactly. And I think that's a good point. A lot of people are getting on that stuff way too soon. Like you said before, you wanted to maximize your potential before even considering that. But now that you've been in this for so long, you realize that it's not even necessary. And
Nope.
I feel that if a lot of people were to adopt that same philosophy, it would be much better off for the fitness community as a whole. Because you have young
Yeah,
guys that really have no base and have no business dealing with expensive and dangerous drugs. Yet they're glorifying this type of lifestyle. And I feel that just unless you're a professional athlete with, say, the best genetics and you're doing this at an early age, and we have those freaks around right now, I don't
yeah,
think that people should be hopping on that stuff. Like, it really should be reserved for like a minority, if you will. Because just natural
yeah.
potential in itself is already very high. And I think most people would be content with, say, a 315 bench or deadlifting near 600 pounds, for example. Like, these are respectable numbers. And when you acquire this, it will reflect upon your physique as well. So it's strong, it looks good, and the drugs are simply not needed for most
Exactly.
people.
Everyone could achieve that naturally, both boys and girls. And also, yeah, I was one of those people. I was already strong. I was the strongest in school eventually. Very fast, actually. I had a good physique, even one best in my age in my state of New Jersey. That even for the fact that that was still not enough for me because I was comparing myself to the top
Right.
roiders, especially the ones my age. I was like, man, if I want to compete against these people. I want to be number one. My lifts are not enough, even though I was strong. I was jacked and all that. And just because I wasn't as strong as them, simply as strong as them, most importantly, I thought less of myself. But now I don't have to do that anymore. I don't know how I got over it. I can't explain it, but it took me a while.
Well, it's also maturity as well, you know? What?
But yeah, I matured too.
Yeah. And when you're younger, your brain is not fully formed, so we tend to make more rational decisions, if you will, which is also why I think people should delay that process of even hopping on drugs, because they might really regret it because they're incapable of making that, like, they're not able to see the long-term effects of what they're doing. It's short-term
Yeah,
gratification for a lot of these guys.
yeah, it is short-term gratification, and a lot of them are too young and too immature to make those decisions. And also, too, I guess it was me more. I guess I very much focused on myself, and I was like, you know what? I guess mainly focusing on myself first and foremost is why I don't, because I truly do this for myself.
Exactly.
That when you truly do it for yourself, you don't really feel the need to, even though you could be competitive, but mainly for yourself, you don't truly feel the need to take the drugs unless you're trying to be the number one in the world, unless trying to be world's strongest man, Mr. Olympia, or all-time world record holding total, stuff like that. But if you're truly doing this for yourself, you're truly trying to build good strength and good physique that you're happy with, you don't need drugs for it. Everyone could do it without drugs. And if you think you can't do it without drugs, you're just kind of delusional or just blinded by the drugged physiques that you kind of have no standards anymore because obviously a drugged physique and drugged strength is more impressive, but people forgot how impressive the non-drugged physiques really are. And you don't know until you put in the amount of years and correct training how good your physique could really be without drugs.
Exactly. And I find it to be extremely inspirational. And it's something that you can more so relate to. When you see a guy who reached like the pinnacle of like natural strength, it really is impressive. When you see that, it's like, wow. And when I look at some of the old time strongmen, I'm always like blown away. And it makes me raise my standard. And not because I want to say compare myself to other men, but it's for me, you know. And I think that's a great point
That,
that you struck, is the fact that a lot of guys are not lifting for the right reasons. They're in this for validation, and they just want to impress everybody, which is fine if you want to do that. That's I'm not judging anyone for that, but people need to focus.
everyone has that in them,
Yeah,
obviously. Everyone wants to impress somebody somehow.
Yeah, and especially if you're in this for business or a competitive athlete, that's all good, and I understand that we're competitive beings. But at the end of the day, that the main focus should be to lift for yourself.
Exactly. I mean, if you don't want to live for yourself primarily, you don't really enjoy what you're doing. You feel like you're just owing it to somebody else, or not really enjoying the process, not really enjoying the journey. You don't. Then you're not. Then it's just gonna be a long chore. You're not gonna stick with it in the long run. That's why people quit. And also, I was gonna say something else. Shoot.
Yeah,
I forget
that
it.
happens. Don't worry, man. We're flowing good. We'll probably get back to it. But since we're on the topic of like natural standards, I'm just curious from your opinion, right? Because obviously you do have a lot of experience in all that. What do you think my benching potential be at, given what you're seeing right now? I'm just curious.
Okay, based on even at your light body weight, I would say you definitely could do 405. Maybe, especially at your light body weight, maybe even more than 405. Maybe like 425, 440. You're still a young guy, so if you keep benching long enough, you could even probably get 450 at a light body weight.
That's crazy. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. What I have noticed,
I know, a lot lighter than what I'll do it.
yeah. But when we were talking about raising the strength before, right? What I noticed is the same as you. It really slows down at some point. Like for me, once I hit the 3.5 mark, it's like I'm barely getting stronger, if you will. I mean, it's going up, but a lot slower, you know, which sucks because when you're more of like an intermediate lifter, it's like you're seeing faster progress. Even when you're in the low threes, it's faster. But when you start getting closer and closer, it's like it continues to slow down pretty much.
Yeah, that's definitely it.
Yeah.
That definitely comes. As in when you're just hitting higher in that ladder, just slowly boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Just
But gains are always being made. And I think that's a misconception. Guys think that they've hit their natural limit, quote unquote. But in reality, the gains are just so small that you might call it a limit, but it really isn't. Because if you're adding a small amount each year, let's say something as minuscule as 5 pounds to your bench each year, right? Well, do that in the long run, you're adding a lot of poundages, you know? So it's not that you tapped out, it's the fact that you're too impatient. You're not willing to make those small gains.
And that also means that maybe something else needs to be trained, as in you have to work other muscles too.
Exactly.
Balance it out, you know?
Yeah, so I want to get into that topic of muscular weaknesses and preventing injuries. So obviously you've had your fair share of things with this, and I can understand that sometimes that happens to the best of serious lifters. What do you think could have been added to your routine to, say, prevent or reduce the chance of these injuries, say the biceps or the pecs?
Basically, I mean, the pecs, actually almost all my injuries was just training too hard and taking too much risk. And training too stupid. That was pretty much it. That's the truth, actually. Which happens sometimes. It's just the risk of lifting heavy weights. Whether you're on drugs or not, even. So it's just a risk of taking, like my bicep, it was just risk. I didn't see it coming. And I did not know it was going to happen. My pec, I guess I was training stupid. I didn't know it was coming either. And my knees, I would say, which is my current one, even though my bicep is healing, but it's still not the same. My knees, which is my current one, it was because I originally hurt it from doing too much squat volume. And then I was training through it to get big and strong. And now it took off, and now it's rehab. How could I prevented it? I guess all of it stems from just take it easy. Don't try to kill myself. Take it easy more, which is what I'm doing now. I'm taking it easy more. I'm doing more longevity in my workouts because the thing is, the weight is already there. I already hit the weight. The the goals will be met. I just have to take more time to hitting it instead of training hard. I'm still training hard, obviously, but I'm training in a more way where I'm actually more fair to my body. Even though I'm doing more reps, but the weight is not that heavy. But I'm doing higher reps, which will aid the
Yeah.
injury and give blood flow and build muscle. And I'm actually listening to my body more, and I'm actually taking more time to progress in heavyweight, so I cannot go too heavy too fast.
Okay.
Because the more I go heavy, the more chance I have to get injured.
But even without going heavy, it's still going to allow you to make a lot of strength gains, right? Because you're still inducing progressive overload in a sense, and you're building muscle as
Yes,
well.
I'm inducing progressive overload. I'm training the CNS through the same muscle, and I'm building muscle itself. So, and I only nowadays will only go heavy when I really feel the need to go heavy. Not feel the need to go heavy as in when it's necessary, like when I'm training for a meet, or when I really only when it's necessary.
Okay.
But not be more kind to my body, really.
And
But I don't have any regrets, obviously,
right.
because it got me this far.
Okay. So then I want to ask
But
you two things
now,
about that. Number one, what do you consider heavy? Like, is there a certain rep range that you're not going to do, or a certain percentage? Like, at what point do you say, okay, this is too much, I'm not going to perform this?
I would say anything I could get for one heavy set of 10 and reps and below.
Okay.
Rep line.
You're staying true to the higher rep stuff. Like, legit, you're doing reps above 10, and that's exclusively what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Or if I'm doing reps of 10, or like lowest reps I would go is like 6. But I would use very lightweight, especially for like the squats and deadlifts nowadays, only because I'm trying to build work capacity, not
Right.
get injured, and just build the muscle. Just really recover, really. So
Okay, so do you feel that you recover better training like this?
I mean, right now I'm recovering so far, and I'm recovering better this way. The goal is for my legs is not to get hurt again, and upper body. I'm just not. I'm building strength back again with this crazy high reps, and then building muscle that way too. And then once I get to heavy weights, I could add more reps
Okay.
and train less heavy.
Okay, and how effective do you think this will work in the long run? Because if you're not dealing with lower percentages, right? I think many would say that you're not getting the full effects, like the specificity, if you will. So do you feel that when you start going heavy again, to say peak for meet or something like that, that your performance is going to be very much on top because you were dealing with this extreme volume?
Honestly, I think, like I said, I'm stretching out the time it takes to go heavy again, as in I'm slowly adding weight again. I'm just adding reps first. I'm adding a set each, and then I'm adding reps every other week, and then I'm gonna very slowly add weight. And then once I get to the heavy weight, I'll be able to do more reps. And then once I get more reps with the pretty heavy weight, after slowly adding weight, it will be like I'm used to the heavy weights again, and then I could be able to build enough muscle and work capacity. I just have to get used to heavy weights again. I'll get a little bit stronger.
Okay.
But I'm gonna this. It may not be the most optimal way, but I'll build muscle. I'll get least
Less
injury. I'll build
injuries.
more
Yeah.
mass, and I'll be this. I'll be here for the long run.
Okay.
And with the more muscle I'll build, I'll have more strength potential.
Okay. And when you do these higher reps, for example, how long are you resting between your sets? Is it more of a classic bodybuilder style, or you're resting with traditional powerlifting methods, say 3 to 5 minutes between each set?
Traditional powerlifter, not even 3 to 5. I don't count my rest
Okay, more
periods. I
muscle
just
instinct type of deal.
I just go when I'm ready. As in when I know I'm gonna get all the reps in each set. It could be 5 minutes. It could be 3 minutes. It could even be 10 or 15 minutes. It just as much as I can. I can get all the reps in sets.
Okay, so this differs in the sense that you're not seeking maximum metabolic fatigue, where all your muscles are burning. You're trying to fully recover for each set. This way you can have maximum performance. Yet you're not going heavy in a sense, but you're still putting in the complete effort.
Yes. Because the thing is, my muscles will definitely burn out, feel crazy pumped with all the reps I'm doing. And this is kind of a new thing, the reps I'm doing the after injury. Because before I did reps too, because I did a lot of methods of training.
Right.
And mostly do it myself. This reps thing is something I'm trying out now. This is what I'm currently doing. And the split I told you with the 3 upper
Yep.
and then squat and the deadlift, that's what I've been doing too. That's what I've been doing, I would say, since 2017 it also worked.
Okay.
And I've even been, like 2016, I would do like a little full body press, a pull, and a squat. And then there are times where I would do maybe, there was times where I squatted every day. There were times where I do body parts. Not body part. Maybe exercise split, but different. Those are my early years. And there were even times where I would do like maybe a variation of a Bulgarian light, which includes the bench, squat, deadlift, overhead press, strict overhead, and then a chin up and a weighted chin up, weighted pull up. So I've done it all.
Okay.
Everything I'm saying is what I'm currently doing.
Yeah, and it's experience based as well. But going back to the split thing, right? So the 3 bench and then 1 squat, 1 dead. Do you feel that this is the template that is most efficient, that feels best on your recovery and strength gains, or is there something else that you feel from your experience works a little bit better, like for optimal gains here?
I mean, I feel like this is the most efficient, actually.
Okay.
The what I'm doing now. And of course, when you have to peak for a powerlifting meet, you'll do something else. But for the off season, what I'm doing now, when you're just trying to build basic strength and muscle, this is the best, most optimal I've done. And if anything, if you want to opt out to deadlift day for a while, you could treat the deadlift day as a second squat day. And it has to be at least 2-3 days in between each squat day. Like if you squat on Tuesday, then squat on Friday. Or if you squat on Monday, squat on Friday. Something like that. And it has to be 2 different squats. Like if you do a high bar squat or low bar squat, then on Monday, then Friday could be a front squat.
Okay, very good. But the sets and reps though, because before you laid out, I just want to make sure so people understand this. Because you outlined the template where you're starting off with higher sets, and then you gradually taper back down. Is that set and rep format used on both days? Like on my front squat day, for example, would I do 6x6, and then the high bar squat day, is it also 6x6?
Honestly, I played around with actually when it comes to squats, you kind of want to, if you're doing 2 squats, you kind of want to lower the volume because you're already going to have a lot of volume squatting anyway. So you don't want to do a lot of volume both squat days. You want to do a lot of volume, but not too much volume because you don't want to get injured. Maybe change up, train one of them for strength and then train one of them for hypertrophy. Like maybe do front squats for hypertrophy and then high bar or low bar squat or safety bar or however you squat for hypertrophy and then front squat for strength.
Okay.
Like a front squat, you could do like maybe a 3x2, a 4x2,
okay.
or a 3x3 or 4x3
Yep.
for front squat. For a high bar squat, you could do maybe a 4x6, a 4x7, or a 3x8. So something like that.
Perfect. So it's kind of like it's similar to like concurrent in a sense, where you have like a heavier day and then a lighter day. But
Yeah.
Right. But the difference is that you're not rotating exercises weekly, if you will, unless you are, of course. I don't know. Like if you do, are you going to use those same variations?
Weekly.
Sorry.
I say you're not rotating exercises weekly. You only rotate exercises after the cycle is done.
Okay, after the phase is done. Perfect. And on average, how long would that last? Would it be like 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12? Like to go through this entire process, how long is that?
It could last 4 weeks. It could last 6 weeks. It could last 8 weeks. It could last Normally average would be like 8, 12, or like with the high reps, it could add like maybe even 20
Okay.
if I'm adding every other rep every other week. So it varies.
Perfect.
And if one exercise ends early, then you could just either stick to the same exercises and change the rep schemes, or you could just do straight sets after the volume. Like for example, the front squat days. You could do one set of front squats each, work up to a rep max. And you could do the same thing for the upper body days, work up to a rep max. Either it's different reps or trying to beat the same reps or trying to work up to the same reps. What I described is the volume.
Yeah.
Or you could just or or you could use a different rep max for each exercise and each variation.
Okay.
And if it's not a second squat day, it could be a deadlift day.
Okay, cool. And do you ever incorporate back off sets into this? And for the sets themselves, do you ever ramp?
You could choose to do ramping sets if you want, but I normally do straight sets. And as far as the sets, the reps and sets, the weight I use with each reps, I use a weight I know I could leave maybe 2, 3 reps in the tank. And the last rep set, I could leave like maybe 1 to 2 reps in the tank.
Okay.
For each set.
So you're not going to failure, and I'm guessing you don't
Not
recommend.
going to fail at all. I always leave 1 in the tank minimum.
Okay. Do you recommend this for all cases?
All cases.
Okay. Unless you're maxing out for like a peaking something like that, right? Then it's all out balls to the wall.
Yeah. Even if unless it's like a 1 rep max, but and it's okay to miss a 1 rep max, but even for rep sets, I always like leaving 1 rep in the tank.
Okay. And what if form is breaking down, say on a deadlift, but you still have a lot more reps in you? Do you recommend just stopping right away, or should one grind through it, even though their form is breaking down and can possibly lead to injury?
I would say form is all relative, but I mean you could still train with your form. You could still grind. You could still finish the set if you have a lot in you, but still safe to failure. But if form is really gonna lead you to injury, where your form is not that good, you should fix your form or find a way to do something about your form or see someone who could help you with your form.
A lot of people would say that if you're doing high volume pulls, that it might lead to form breakdown and therefore increase injury risk, and therefore doing lower reps, higher sets might be advantageous. So what are your thoughts on that? And do you include touch and go repetitions or dead stop? In other words, are high reps risky when doing pulls?
Honestly, with touch and go deadlifts, even dead stop deadlifts, you're risking injury, but it's a less likely chance of injury. But you're risking injury with deadlifting, period, whether it's touch and go and dead stop. But touch and go is a higher chance of injury, I guess. But I'm not, I mean, I guess there's a reason for it. But it's okay to find, if touch and go gets you stronger and touch and go helps you build muscle, then you could definitely do touch and go. But if it's going to get you injured and if it's causing your injury, then I would stay away from it.
Okay. And what about the higher reps?
Higher reps, I would say it's beneficial, but at the same time, if it's risking injury, then be mindful. But at the same time, what people have to understand, everything risks injury. So even dead stop would risk injury. Just even when your form breaks down, it risks injury. Okay. So
now I have a question in regards to, let's say, because
touch and go does have its place.
Perfect.
For deadlift, getting up in hypertrophy.
Okay.
And overload.
So I want to ask you about deadlifts, right? Because if you're doing, let's say someone is doing the higher reps, or they're following your template, and they start to get a bit of a lower back pain, or maybe their recovery is not as good. Would you tell them to simply squat instead of pulling, or would you recommend something like block pulls to maybe reduce the lower back stress a little bit? Like, what would be advised if you're trying to auto-regulate that, but you're still wanting to make great gains on your pulls?
I guess if you get back pain from deadlifts, either change to a back-friendly deadlift like sumo deadlifts. If not, then you could just I would say add a second squat day, like preferably front squats because they transfer to the let me see, deadlift a lot. Or you could maybe even box squat if you want. Like maybe a deadlift stance box squat.
Okay.
I borrowed that from George
Yeah,
Lehman.
yeah.
If anything, or you could also, but I prefer the front squats honestly
For deadlift carryover.
because yeah,
Okay.
and also hammer more back, do more pull-ups, do more rows, more pull-ups and rows, and even rack pulls if you want. You can rack pull, and but this is all for training back. But and you could even if you want to deadlift too, you could do it for speed. Speed, maybe again, spans or chains, or just speed off a deficit. Just pull for speed, maybe a few speed singles or speed sets of 1, 2, 3 reps, just to get that as fast as possible, and just to get the CNS.
Okay, perfect.
And it has to be as fast as possible.
Okay.
And that will be after you have a second squat day, preferably like front squats.
Okay.
Uh,
Wait. You're saying to do speed pulls after front squats? Like
after you squat, after
in
front
the same
squats.
day?
Same day.
Okay.
You like.
It's in the case of replacing a deadlift day. So you're starting with the front squat, then you're doing the light speed pulls. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
Okay, I understand.
correct.
Now, if someone is trying to specialize in either the squat or the deadlift, they're not looking to improve the big three simultaneously. Number one, would you add an additional day? And secondly, would you eliminate one of those lifts? For example, having 2 deadlift days or say 3 squat days. Would something like that work?
Okay, for one of the other, I would say for squat, I mean, either one or the other is fine, but you could have the 2 squat days, like maybe a high bar or low bar squat, however you squat. And then second day, either maybe an SSB squat, high bar squat, or low bar squat, or a squat you didn't do, or a front squat. And then for deadlift, you could have a second deadlift day. In fact, you could have a conventional deadlift day, or maybe like a reverse span deadlift day, or a second day for deadlifts. So you could have 2 deadlift days. Then train them the same way. Just train them the same way, as in train one for strength, train one for hypertrophy.
Perfect. And it's the same setup because deadlifts tend to be more taxing on the body. So would it be split by 2 to 3 days or do you wait a little bit longer for that?
Maybe like 2 days in between or 3 days in between. Preferably 3 days in between. Like if you deadlift one Monday, deadlift one Friday. And if you're doing like a reverse band deadlift, mainly a top set is necessary, actually.
Okay.
You don't have to train it for hypertrophy.
Yeah.
So for deadlift day, you could train. Deadlifts are a little different from squats.
So you're able to do 2 deadlift days. What about 3? Is that too much?
Okay, here's the thing. You could do 3 deadlift days and 3 squat days. I've done it before, and this is what you can do. You can even deadlift and squat on the same day.
Okay.
But this is what you would have to do. It would just have to be a top set of each.
Ah, I see.
That's what it has to be. Just a top set. That's it. And the top set has to be 1 or 2 or 3 reps in the tank. And you have to just work up to a top set. All right, now continuing. I've done it before. You could just work. You could work out. You could do a squat first. Work up to a top set. Then that'll be it. In the top set, leave 1, 2, 3 reps in the tank, and then the deadlift set. It could be a top rep set. It could be a single. It could be a rep set, and just do 1, 2, 3 reps in the tank, and you choose the variation. It could be your competition variation, and your other 2 days, it could be your favorite variation of choice. Like if you choose for squat, it could be high bar squat, it could be front squat, it could be safety bar squat. And for deadlift, it could be sumo deadlift, it could be deficit deadlift, it could be, or conventional, it could be snatch grip deadlift. So, or it could even be block pull or whatever, or box squat, whatever you want. So, and that would be each day. And you would have every other day. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
That would be the 3 deadlift days. And then I'm
Yeah,
assuming,
three
yeah,
deadlift
three
days
deadlift or
would be
squat day.
squat days.
Yeah.
You could choose to squat those days. If not, then you could just deadlift. But it could, the same rules apply, just a top set each.
Okay. And how good do you think the progression would be to say training twice a week? Because a lot of people are going to say that frequency is the answer.
I mean, if you're not recovering or making progress, then it's not worth it. If you're making progress, doing everything once a week, then if you're doing the squat and deadlift once a week, you're making progress the most, then do that. If you make more progress twice a week, then do that.
Okay.
If 3 days a week, then do it. So my philosophy is
Do
just
what works.
whatever
Yeah.
works, whatever makes progress, whatever gets you to that goal, that desired goal.
Okay. So the lifter really has to figure out what's best for them. And in your case,
Yeah.
I'm guessing that the twice a week, that's the template that works best for you, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, if I wanted to, if I had knees of titanium, I would have a front squat day and a high bar squat day. But my knees don't take it anymore. That's what got me crippled in the first place.
Okay.
So I have to just have one squat day, one deadlift day. Before it was a squat day, it was a high bar squat day, a front squat day, and a deadlift day. But I can't do that anymore. So I have to choose my squat. My squat of choice is high bar for now. Once I peak out on high bar, maybe after I compete, I'll front squat again. And then my second day will be deadlift. Or who knows, in the future, I could have 2 squat days, but then I'll have to opt out of deadlift
Okay.
or something like that.
Now, here's something I want to know. If a lifter competes in push-pull, do they still have to squat? Or like, would it be optimal to squat to raise your deadlift? Or can someone exclusively do pulls and say reach their limit or at least an elite level of strength? Like, how important is squatting for raising your pulls?
I would say it's pretty important, but at the same time, it can be done. There are people who don't squat at all, but also increase their deadlift. So, I mean, you could just squat and do back and increase your deadlift, but you could also just deadlift a lot, and deadlift with the correct program and increase your deadlift. So, and it's also based on build and body weight, so and leverages. So deadlift is that lift that you either have a strong back and legs, as in train your rows and pull-ups and stuff,
Right.
and squats, you increase your deadlift, or you could just not squat at all and just do all the lower back stuff like hyperextensions, do all your reverse hypers, do your hamstrings, do your deadlifting, you increase your deadlift. So it's done either way.
Okay, but it makes it more complicated if you're not doing the squats, right? Because now you have to supplement that with additional accessories.
Yeah, supplement it with additional accessories, and you have to work harder on your deadlift.
Okay, so it's more efficient to do squats and deadlifts at the same time. And if someone chooses to do a lot more squats, minimal deadlifts, they would still get a good carryover performance, right?
Depends on how strong their back is, and not just that. Also depends on the build. I would say out of the 3 lifts, the deadlift is the most leverage based. If you don't have the leverages for deadlifts, no amount of squatting and back work would help you. It would help you a lot, but it would basically be as much as your deadlift. If not, I mean, it would be as much as your squat, if not a little worse.
Okay.
If you're the extreme end where you have a really good squat, and these people tend to have pretty good benches, but yet you're not built to deadlift, so you lift less than your squat.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to see that.
But if these people didn't squat in the first place, they would have small deadlifts. So I guess the squat helped them.
Okay, perfect. So I want to know your opinion on beltless versus belted training. Should one do phases where they're lifting beltless, or should they wear a good quality belt year-round for the most part?
It's up to the lifter. Some lifters say beltless, some lifters say belted. Well, if beltless training helps your belted training, then train beltless. If you lift without a belt, then don't wear a belt. If you lift with a belt, wear a belt. And if belted training If you're one of those lifters that wear a belt all year round, then wear a belt all year round. It's all a bunch of preference, really,
Okay.
or what gets you the biggest total. Depending on lifting on equipment or not, if you really want to lift with equipment like a belt and stuff like that, it's really about, it's not that it makes a difference, but it's also about not just lifting safely. It's about getting as much, you really want to lift as much weight as you possibly can and get as much leverage as you possibly can for each lift.
Right.
But as far as lifting with the belt, me, like when I squat heavier, I'll use a belt because that's what gets me the most pounded. But I'll still do lightweight without semi-heavy without a belt. But if I wanted to go like maybe 500 and above, I'll use a belt. But I could still do 405 without a belt. But I could also use 405 with a belt on squats. But deadlifts, for some reason, if I knew how to use a belt on deadlifts, I would. But I tried many times a belt with deadlifts. I get suffocated. It doesn't. I cannot breathe with the belt on deadlifts. I do all my deadlifts beltless.
When you're warming up, you do a beltless. To how long though? To what point? Like, let's say someone has a 500-pound raw deadlift. What would that? At what point do they start wearing the belt? At 405?
It's up to the lifter. Some would even wear it at 405. Some would wear it at 315 even. So it's up to the lifter.
Okay.
But most likely 405.
Okay. So like a 100-pound difference type of deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
100 pounds or 80%.
Okay. Cool. Now, I think that covers a good amount of information in regards to squats and deads. It makes sense. Like we broke down the entire system, how it works. So I think that's going to be quite helpful for a lot of people. Just one more thing I want to address: injury risk for these exercises. Is there anything that you'd recommend? Say some accessories or a mobility drill, something like that.
Besides good form, make sure you eat enough, drink enough water, sleep enough, and have good form. Like everything, make sure you sleep enough hours, eat enough calories. Not overeat. Don't be in a seafood diet, but I mean, obviously you want to eat enough, but you also just want to recover enough. You don't want to overtrain. You don't want to use bad form. You don't want to. I mean, form is all relative too.
Yeah.
And you wanna listen to your body really. You also want to lift in the best way that is that you could actually handle without getting injured. My version of accessories are variations of each lift.
Okay.
That I treat the variations as the main lifts because for me the variations of each lift, like the front squat, the safety bar squat, the incline bench, the strict overhead stuff, and the sumo deadlift, snatch grip deadlift, deficit, I treat them as a lift themselves. As in, if I need to do accessories after the main lifts for that day, I would probably maybe do a little bodybuilding style or some prehab work or something.
Okay.
Or I don't have to do anything else for that day. I guess I covered it all.
Okay. But there's no stretches that you'd recommend or band work or
I mean,
stuff like that?
me personally, I should be doing this, but I don't do enough mobility work. But me currently, because of my knee injury, that's when I started like prehabbing my knees, maybe doing wall sits,
Right.
maybe doing more hamstrings, leg curls. And I should be doing more core work. That's what I should be doing. I should be doing more lower back. But at the same time, I don't do core and lower back because I do enough squat and deadlift volume that it covers my lower back and core needs. That if I do if I do lower back and core, then it will interfere with my squat and deadlifting because I do enough volume there. It covers those two muscles. But if anything, do some stretches or wall sits or some prehab, maybe some light cardio, maybe some mobility work.
Okay.
I'm not expert in mobility work actually, but I know there are definitely good sources out there.
Okay. So let's talk more about the bench press now because I think we covered the squats and deads. What variations? Well, first of all, what do you feel works best for building a raw bench? Because you have guys who are going to say just bench more, just do a lot of pause bench, everything's going to be fine. I know that's general advice and it does work, but what is your take on bench training?
I would say bench more helps, But not just you have to bench more, you also have to build the muscle. I'm a big advocate of building big muscles to build the strength, because once you build the muscle, you have to build the strength. Like, same thing I say with the others, build the reps. Once you build the reps, work on the weak points, and build muscle with the variations. So you need a big upper body. So build the muscle with the bench, do the higher reps. Eventually, like everything I explained before, higher reps for volume. Eventually, getting more weight out of lower reps and heavier weight, and then then also I would say train other exercises too. Like, maybe that could be enough, but that would be my bench day. But my other press day would be shoulder press. I would do the same thing as my bench. And then I would do barbell incline. It would be the same thing.
Okay.
In shoulder press, it would be either standing or seated. In military, it would be the same thing. And maybe add like push-ups, maybe add dips, maybe add handstand push-ups. That could just be like for the hypertrophy part. And who knows, maybe even add like a dumbbell exercise.
Like a dumbbell press?
Like if you want to add like a dumbbell
Yep.
incline or dumbbell flat bench or dumbbell seated press, or still same thing, hypertrophy of those exercises. Like no less than 6 reps on those exercises. And you could do stupid high reps on those if you want. It could be even 20 for a set of 20, and ramp up the weight. A set of 20 starting light. And you could also train the back. Like, it could be rows, it could be pull-ups. And me specifically, I like the country crush pull-up,
those are
arm
tough.
wrestling. Those are tough, especially with my body weight.
Yeah.
And you can even do like biceps, which I don't do enough of. I just do weighted chin-ups. I did biceps before when I was doing more arm wrestling specific exercise, or just every now and then I'll do a cheat curl or train them. And train the back, pull-ups, rows, what else? And body weight. So
Okay.
the same type of training.
Okay, perfect. So it's a bit different from the squats and deads then. You're hitting like 1 to 2 presses depending on the workout, how you feel, but usually just one, right? And then you're hitting some back work and some other little accessories, maybe like some curls or something like that.
Yeah, or maybe a bodyweight exercise.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay.
Or back,
Okay, that makes sense.
or the bodyweight exercise or dumbbell exercise. Up to you. Your main barbell exercise, dumbbell exercise, or a bodyweight exercise, which is a press, and then a back exercise. That's it.
Okay. Is that just how you feel? Or on average, are you just doing
That's
one?
just how I feel. It could even be one press. It could just be the main press if you
Okay.
want.
What would you recommend
But-
on average though?
I mean, the extra press is just for extra hypertrophy, and just because I want to get good at the press. But you're even fine with just the minimum, just train the one press exercise. But of course, it won't hurt to do an extra press, whether it's a dumbbell or body weight, to build the extra muscle.
Perfect.
And get good at the exercise.
Okay. And what about the triceps? Do you ever do heavy extensions in your workout?
Honestly, I don't experiment that much with it, even though I feel like I should. In fact, the thing is, I get a lot from the pressing and bend and upper body volume. I do a lot of that. But if I were to add a fourth day, say I maxed out with the volume, I guess I could add a arm day if I can, where I could specifically do biceps and triceps.
Okay.
And that'll be a fourth day.
Okay.
And that's only if I feel the need to, even though I feel like maybe it could actually benefit me.
Okay.
But I feel like maybe it could also, I do so much volume on the others that it might not be needed.
Okay. Now, do you ever do close grip benching in your training? Because you said you're doing the flat bench, the incline, and the overhead. But where would close grip benching fall into that equation? Would it just replace a flat bench and say a different type of phase?
Personally, I bench with a closer grip because I have longer arms, so I guess that's the only time I would do it.
Well, what do you mean? What's the only time?
I kind of have a closer grip when I bench.
You're saying you always
If
do
you
that?
notice my benching videos, it's kind of
Okay.
Yeah, I don't bench very wide.
So you always use the same grip, like 100% of the time?
I mean, sometimes it's a closer grip, sometimes it's a narrow grip, but that's just the way I bench.
Okay, so
I don't do the super
you
wide
never
grip
do the
at all.
wide bench. Okay, cool.
No.
What about partial bench presses? Do you ever do stuff like that? Say a little bit above your chest with pins, or what are your thoughts on that?
If anything, I experimented with the floor press, but then it worked actually for a while. In fact, I think that's what helped with my 405. I was doing a cycle of floor press and standing overhead press strict. And of course, training for one arm chin up. I wanted to do the one arm chin up at a heavy body weight, so I was doing with a reverse band and even with weight, reverse band assistance, and even with the weight to do some one arm chins each arm. And even using assisted, as in using one hand to hold the pole, other hand to chin up.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was doing more of that. And but what really did is the a cycle of floor press and a cycle of standing strict overhead press, and it helped my bench press. That's the only thing I experimented with. And it worked.
Okay, cool. Would you ever try out different variations, like the dead bench, for example?
I guess I'll give it a try in the future. I'm not gonna say no to it. It looks like it works. It works for a lot of the lifter. It works for you. It works for some world record holders. I would say it works.
Okay, cool. And then what about slingshot bench press?
I tried Slingshot before. I mean, I tried it to get over. I used it for therapy to get over my pec tear. In 2 weeks, I was using it, starting with 185 for sets of 10, and eventually building up to 225 for sets of 10 with the Slingshot. And because of the Slingshot, it took maybe 2 weeks benching. Then I was even able to do 185 for a set of 10 without a Slingshot with the pec tear, 185 for reps.
Wow.
But I was mainly using the Slingshot. And then because of the Slingshot for recovery, I was able to even bench 300 fast without one. So it's good for recovery.
Okay.
As far as strength goes, I was trying it when I first got it. I was that guy who was benching with it. I got to I guess I was doing a 360-pound gym bench with a little ass rise. And this was back when I got it as a Christmas gift, 2014 of December, Christmas. And I used it January to February 2015, trying to use it for strength. But I was just basically maxing every day with it. This was when I was in between programs. And before I was training for my first meet, I was
Mm-hmm.
benching with it.
And it worked for you in terms of gaining strength. Like you mentioned, the recovery was good, but the strength
I
too.
mean, it was good for recovery. Gaining strength, I guess it worked a bit, but I didn't really try it that much.
Okay.
I didn't really utilize it the best way for gaining strength. I guess it has its benefits. I guess it could work.
Okay.
I guess if I learned how to use Slingshot for strength, it would work.
Okay.
But it helped the most for my recovery, especially when I first tore my pec.
Okay. Now, one thing I want to know about is because we go back to the setup where you're doing bench, incline, and then overhead, right? Are you doing the incline and the overhead to get better at those lifts specifically? Or are you doing it for bench press carryover? Because as a competitive powerlifter, your goal is to raise the big three, right? So is it because you want to be strong at everything? Or it's because you feel that this is the best way to actually raise your raw bench?
Honestly, yeah, I do it to get good at those three lifts specifically.
Okay.
I bench. I have a bench day because I want to get good at the bench specifically. I have an incline day. I want to get good at the incline bench specifically. I have a standing overhead press. I want to get good at standing overhead press specifically.
Okay.
Because honestly, if I really want to get good at the big three power lifts, then I would hire a coach because a coach could do it better than I can.
Really? Okay.
But that's not my goal. I want to be good at all the strength movements I care about and build a total physique and strength and muscle mass if I can.
Okay.
And get good at all the exercises that are the big three, but beyond the big three. If I cared specifically about the big three, I'd hire a coach for it. But I don't. But I care about exercises beside that.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you more questions about hiring a coach later, because it's an interesting point that you raised, that even an advanced lifter like you would consider doing something like that, right? So we'll talk more about that later. But I want to know, like right now, let's say you were hyper focused on the big three, and that was your sole objective, if you will. Would you continue this 3-day a week pressing setup? And if so, would it all be flat bench, or would you still be doing overhead press for carryover?
Honestly, if my sole purpose was the big three, I would still do everything the way I'm doing it now. And once I hit to the heavyweight I'm able to hit, I would hire a coach for the big three.
Okay.
So I could do a meet. So I would still keep everything the same.
All right. Let's say a guy is cheap as hell. They don't want to hire a strength coach, right? I'm going beyond you now, right? Beyond Tobi Alder for a sec, right? And they want to raise their bench. That's all they care about. They want to be a bench bro. They're like, screw incline, screw overhead. Would they do it anyway? Just because it's so good?
In fact, I would say that I would stick to the bench, shoulder press, and incline, because those are gonna hit all. Beside maybe some rear delts, that's gonna hit all your pressing muscles, because that's gonna hit the upper chest, that's gonna hit your delts, that's gonna hit every part of the pec. Maybe you just need to add some dips in there. That's gonna hit all your pressing muscles,
Okay.
because if that's gonna hit every pressing strength possible.
Okay.
So I would keep it.
Okay. And
even without a coach.
okay, excellent. I just wanted to clarify that. And the order is, say Monday is flat bench, Wednesday is incline, and Friday is overhead, or what's the sequence here?
Monday it's flat.
Okay.
Wednesday it's shoulder press, and Friday it's incline. Even without a coach or someone who's not looking to compete, someone who's looking to be a gym bro, someone who's looking
Right.
to gain muscle and strength and size, everything I said about my split and then my philosophies, I think it's probably one of the best, hands down,
Perfect.
for anyone to do it.
Very good.
So I really believe in what I'm doing,
Okay, very good. I'm glad to hear that.
especially if you're not trying to compete.
Perfect. And how about the weights themselves? Because if you're pressing 3 times a week, right, it means that you're not going to go heavy on each day, right? So does that mean that on the overhead day, it's lighter weights?
On the pressing, you could go away with having them all the same. It could all be light, higher reps, or you could choose one heavy, one light, one medium, or you could choose all heavy. You could get away with it.
Okay.
And also depends on your nagging injuries too.
Okay.
So
it really does
So,
depend on how you
if
feel
it-
and your ability to recover.
yeah,
So if you want to do heavy all 3 days, go ahead and do that. If you want to do heavy, light, medium, go ahead. If you want to do heavy, heavy, medium, go ahead. If you want to do light, 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 that works too.
and also if you have like injuries, I would prefer maybe instead of 3 days, you would do 2 days. So maybe a press of choice and a shoulder press, maybe flat or incline, and then a shoulder press.
Okay. This is if someone has injuries, though. If they're physically...
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been pressing injuries. Maybe a flat or incline, or then like if you have flat, you could do shoulder press. If you do incline, you could do dip a second day,
Okay.
or maybe even decline. But I prefer dips.
Wait,
The way the
dips were to replace what?
To replace for the second day to focus. If you're doing a 2-day split, say you have injuries,
Okay.
that prevent you from pressing a lot. And also, if you want to train 3 days, like I would say for the lower body, I would say the 3 days should just be a top set, 1 to 3 days in the tank, 1 to 3 reps in the tank.
Okay, excellent. And in regards to touch and go versus pause, how do you program that? Is every day, because you have some strength coaches who believe that you should only do pause benching, never do touch and go. Then you have those who say you should kind of combine it, where there are some days you're doing touch, other days you're doing pause. And then you have guys who say that you should do it in phases, where you might do 4 weeks of touch and go only, 4 weeks of pause only. What is your take on that?
Matter of preference. If you want to do pause reps in the off season, pause all your reps. You want to do touch and go, touch and go. And then when you're closer to a meet, or if you want to compete, or however you bench, then That's the way you should program. If you're a pause bencher, you should do pause reps. If you normally bench touch and go, do touch and go.
Okay. But is there a preference that you have in particular?
Me personally, I pause all my reps, so I'm a pause bencher. Except incline, maybe I'll just do touch and go. Unless I'm doing like one rep, I'll pause because I automatically am a pause bencher. So that's the only way I know how to bench personally. So I would just pause.
But incline, you are pausing every time. You're just saying that there are exceptions that sometimes you might want to do touch and go.
I'll do touch and go maybe if it's a high rep set.
Like,
Maybe like stop maybe 1 inch above my chest for stupid high reps or stuff like that.
right.
Not really fully locking out, even though almost short of lockout for high reps. And lock out maybe the last few or last one rep. Who knows?
Okay, perfect.
For all my presses, really.
And does the pausing feel better on your shoulders?
I guess it feels better, but it just feels more natural for me to pause, especially the low reps.
Yeah, the low reps. Yeah, I definitely agree on that. It always felt weird when you go above 10 with a pause. I don't know why that's the case, but it just strange. But anyway, I go back and forth all the time. But in regards to squats, do you ever do pause squats?
I experimented it with for a while sometimes, but I don't really program it. But if anything, it was more my squat every day, Bulgarian light days.
Right.
I would do pause squats.
Okay, and
Bulgarian light as in my little mix to it.
I'd be interested to learn more about your style. But first, let me ask you a few more questions. There was also, you mentioned reverse band before, a few times actually. A lot of people say that reverse band is completely worthless for raw lifters. What are your takes on those statements?
Not true. I mean, I guess for noobs and people starting out, you really just want to get more time under the barbell, learn the form, learn how to lift, just get as much time under the barbell, just eke out your noob gains, just train more, just lift more basically.
Yeah.
Just learn basic programming. And then once you hit the intermediate phase, once you stop making progress, and once you stop already making the progress you're making, then you could try experimenting with bands, chains, all that stuff. But it's also a matter of programming.
Right.
As in just the way you program it. It all has its uses.
Okay, and how has it benefited you in your training, specifically reverse band deadlifts?
It helped, actually. Having one day to work up to a top set reverse band deadlifts, it gave me an overload for regular deadlifts that helped me when I was doing regular deadlifts. It helped the weight go up.
Like it helped you.
It carried.
Like it just carried over in a general sense, or
in general.
Okay,
not targeting the lockout specifically, right. Just in general. Okay. It helped the floor. It just helped with everything.
That's awesome. And how much more could you lift on reverse bands compared to just the regular style?
It depends on the reverse bands, but the ones I used in my videos, I would say a good 40, 50 pounds carry over because it's not wrapped around that well.
Okay. And you always...
So 40, 50 pounds off the floor.
And it's always the same reverse band, yeah? Like you're not...
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not...
Always the same black one, I believe.
Right. Now, I want to know, let's say someone is not able to pull from the floor for whatever reason, but they still want to get a very strong deadlift. How would the programming be in that sense? Would they just do a lot of below the knee rack pulls and mixing up the grips, like using snatch grip, regular, maybe rack pull with bands, rack pull reverse bands? Like, would the same strategies that you normally use for deadlifts be applied, but just in the rack?
You could try that, but I'm personally a fan of just having an extra squat day and speed pulls. But you could also do the rack pulls if you want. Have maybe a third day for rack pulls. That could be a third day, 2 days for squat. The third day will be the rack pulls and everything you recommended with it. Like maybe using a band and using and have it below the knee or to the sticking point, either a rack pull or a block pull, and that'll be a third day.
Okay. No.
And also it's good to include a second squat day with a speed deadlift day after the squat. Right. Speed deadlifts after the squat. The rack pull will be a third day within itself.
Mixed grip versus double overhand versus hook and all that. Now I think we can both agree that once you hit a certain point on double overhand, it becomes less feasible in the sense that you just won't be able to lift as much. But then the person has to make that choice. Are they going to switch to hook and mix? Now, I know in your case, you tore a bicep using the mixed grip, right? And I don't think it's because you bent your arm or everything. Obviously, your form is proficient. It's more so overuse and stuff like that. But would you still recommend a mixed grip after experiencing a tear?
I do, actually. I recommend a mixed grip, but you just have to be careful. And hook grip is more safe, and in the long run, it's good to do hook grip, but I recommend mixed grip.
Do you think one could lift?
I recommend mixed grip if for as long as you can. Just don't tear a bicep. My strategy really is double overhand on the lighter weights. If I can't double overhand anymore, use straps. I'm just going to use straps.
Okay.
And if I do heavy weight, maybe a heavy single, I'm going to do the other mixed grip that's not torn yet. But I'm only going to go no more than 95% of what I could currently do. But if I want to go all out, like 100%, which I'm going to try not to do, like say I want to finally pull 800 in the gym, I have no choice. If I cannot pull 800 conservatively with the mixed grip without it tearing, depending on the last warm-up, I'm going to have to pull 800 with straps.
Right.
And if I want to pull 800 in competition, it has to be like a 95% at most. Max.
Exactly.
If not, then I'll just have to learn hook grip and suck it up. Be banking on the 95% option, hoping I don't tear a second bicep.
It sounds like a pretty good option if you ask me. The 95%, like it sounds feasible. You know, you're not overdoing it or anything like that.
I'm definitely not gonna max out the other mixed grip anymore. Because the last thing I want to do is tear the second bicep. I'm not gonna go grind out a rep with the second mixed grip and tear another bicep. That's what I'm not going to do.
Getting stronger at the same time, and they don't have any grip issues and stuff like that. Should they be using the mixed grip at all during their training, or should they just peak with the mixed grip?
I would say train your grip on the side, and if you don't want to train mixed grip without tearing a bicep anyway, and you're a hook grip puller, then use straps as much as you can on training, and only use mixed grip for competitions or for PRs.
Right.
If not, then for most of your volume, most of your work, train with straps and do grip work outside.
Okay, fantastic. And in regards to the grip work, there's a lot of different ideas here. Like I know you competed in grip sport and all that. What is the best way to train your grip for deadlifting? Are there any special exercises that you'd recommend? Like I know, for example, doing heavy rack pulls with a double overhand, that tends to be quite effective. Even doing rack pulls with a mixed grip, because you can kind of like take the legs out of the equation for the most part and solely focus on the grip. Although that does put risk on the bicep itself. So what are some specific grip movements that a powerlifter can incorporate into the routine?
I'm just a big fan of doing heavy ass rolls and a lot of pull-ups and heavy pull-ups and chin-ups.
Okay.
Without straps.
So rows without straps.
Rows without straps. Right. Heavy rows without straps. Heavy pull-ups without straps. And do it for reps.
Okay. And double overhand on the rows? Or
double overhand.
Okay. So, well, obviously one's going to be limited in that sense, right? Like, for example, for you, near 800 pounds.
It could be Pendleys. It could be...
Like, you're a near 800-pound puller, right? So what's your average work weight for rows double over?
I would say it would be 15. And I would get high reps, and it would be off the floor. And I don't use straps or chalk. That's the thing. I don't use straps or chalk on any of my pull-ups, any of my rows, or any of my chin-ups. No straps, no chalk.
Well, only if the goal...
And I guess other people could get away with using chalk. You could use chalk, but I just been doing it without chalk.
Okay, but...
And just don't use straps on any of your pulling movements. That's my favorite.
And the lack of chalk, right? Are you doing that for the specific purpose of building your grip, or do you generally not wear chalk?
I mean, just specific purpose of building my grip. And also, I mean, basically I could still build grip with just using chalk, but I build grip even more not using chalk. I only use chalk if I have to, and I still build grip with chalk.
Interesting. Now, what I find interesting as well is the fact that you're a very elite deadlifter, like super elite in my eyes. yet you're only doing rows with 315 double overhand. So I guess that says a lot about how people are lifting too heavy when
And
they don't have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how many, like you said, super high reps for grip work. What does that entail? Reps of 20, like 10 to 20. What is that exactly? And what's the standard set and rep formula?
Reps no less than 6, and reps could even be as high as 20. Could be as high as 30. It could be as high as 10. It could be as high as 15. It could be as high as 12.
Right.
Really, reps no less than 6.
Okay. And you said you do the rows from the floor. Does that mean you're executing it in a pen lay style, or are you leaving it like an inch
In
up?
a semi-penly, a little cheat.
Okay. But the weight resets every time, so it's like concentric based. And but do you control the negative on the way down at least?
Not really.
Okay, cool. And so that's what you do for grip work. It's high rep rows and pull ups for the most part. And does that mean you don't?
Yeah, sometimes even weighted in pull-ups or chin-ups.
Right.
Either body weight or weighted.
Right.
And it could be high reps. It could be heavy lower reps.
Right.
The rows wouldn't be that heavy unless it's like one set. It's mostly higher reps for the rows. The pull-ups could be higher reps for either body weight or weighted, or it could be lower reps
Right.
for strength.
Okay. And
For the pull-ups, chin-ups.
and for pull ups, obviously it's a more challenging exercise for a lot of people because of the you have to factor in the body weight and all that. So what do you define as like higher reps? Because I can do stuff like 3 sets of 20, for example, but I know that for a lot of people that might be even too much for stuff like that. So what's higher reps?
That is higher reps. I would say higher reps is anything 6 and above, but honestly anything like 10 and above. Like sets of 10 and above, that's higher reps. I would say anything you could get for 6 and above, and you just want to keep adding reps. That's higher reps.
Okay, cool.
Just keep adding reps to what you can get 6 and above, but you really want 10 and above.
Right.
And maybe even sets of 20, that's higher reps.
Perfect.
That's kind of like pushing it.
And this is
Maybe just one all-out set of 30, or maybe if you're crazy, 50, if you're crazy, of any exercise.
yeah, that's rough for sure. And I know a lot of arm wrestlers train like that. But okay, so what I'm getting at here is you primarily use double overhand during your warm-ups until you can no longer pull that way. I just one thing though, do you ever fail with the double overhand? Then you're like, oh, screw this, I'll switch this. Or do you just know that this is the max you're gonna get, and you switch over to the straps?
Most of the time, I know it's the max I get. I switch over to the straps. Or there are instances, like recently at one of my workouts, where I was kind of like, I didn't have a good bar for deadlifts. On the 9th rep, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna. During the 9th rep, it slipped. I lost grip, so I just switched to straps to continue. I switched to mixed grip to continue my other mixed grip to finish the set, and then I switched to straps for the rest of the workout.
I see. Like for the purpose of raising deadlift performance, you don't do low rep grip work.
No, only because grip is never really an issue for me. If it is, I would. And I say grip is also not just a matter of strength; it's also a matter of hand size.
Right. On your pressing days, you're always doing a back exercise, whether it be a pull-up or a row. But on your squat or deadlift days, you're not doing that, right? So it's really the rows is on upper days.
The rows and pull-ups are on upper days. Deadlift days are just deadlifts.
Okay.
And then, of course, the knee prehab, which is new. And squat days are just, let me see, a squat and then the knee prehab stuff.
Perfect. And there are some strength coaches who recommend doing rows like 5 times a week. I want to know your take on this. Let's say on the squat and deadlift days, as opposed to doing free weighted rows, one just does like lat pull downs or just really light fluff and pump. Do you think that would be beneficial?
I'm sure it has its purposes, but I'm a big fan of chin-ups and rows and deadlifts or back. But I guess you could do your lat pull downs.
Okay.
Especially, if anything, I only find lat pull downs and stuff like that specific if you have like a country crush or something.
Right.
Where you can turn into like a little arm wrestling exercise.
Yeah. And since we're on the topic of rows and pull-ups, I want to know what application do they have for the competitive powerlifter? Do you experience carryover of any type when you start including these movements? Like if you were to take them out,
chin-ups and rows?
Yeah, like if you were to take them out of your routine, what would be some of the consequences?
For deadlifts, for bench, I guess you have to use your back to like pull the weight towards you. and to like have strong lats as a base for bench, like a little shelf for your pressing to have a strong back. And for deadlift, I would say it helps if you're a lockout, I guess. And it really helps with the lockout
Okay.
for having a strong back. And for upper body, it helps with your shoulder health. It helps keep the balance between the pressing and the pulling. It's good to have the antagonist muscles have a balance. So it's good to pull while you push. So if anything, it's most you need it for health when you for your
Right.
shoulder health, and you also need it for your pressing to even out your pressing muscles. And you can still get away with not with deadlifting without rows and pull-ups, but it helps.
Yeah. I agree
So
with that. I think it's better in the long run in terms of like just making sure that you don't have any muscular imbalances, plus correcting weaknesses at the same time. And if it has carryover, that's also beneficial. The only thing that I am a bit uncertain about, because this is quite debatable, some people believe that pull-ups have carryover to say the conventional deadlift. Others say that it doesn't, and that you should just do rows and screw the pull-ups and just do lat pull-downs. Some of the heavyweight guys say that. Do you think that they have
those are
carryover?
can't do a pull up. That's why. Hey, those heavyweight guys are finding an excuse not to do a pull up. Of course, they could stack their body weights and do lat pull downs. So it's the equivalent for them. I would say pull ups actually work better uh than lat pull downs for deadlift carryover. Every jacked powerlifter that actually could do pull ups will tell you the same thing, that have good deadlifts. That pull-ups are better than lat pull-downs for carryover for deadlifts. The lat pull-down guys are just those big fat guys that cannot do a pull-up, so they want to do their lat pull-down, which works for them too because that's the equivalent. It builds them a strong back and it helps them with their deadlift. And most of those guys won't even be the best deadlifters anyway because they're too big to deadlift. And they are not built for it. So I would say pull-ups are even better for it.
Okay, awesome. Now, I think that covers a really good amount of information for for most of the major lifts. So I don't think I'm going to press further upon that. But I want to know your take on bodybuilding training, and you alluded to that previously, where you said if you wanted bigger arms, you might have included something like an arm day. Just curious, what is your current arm measurement?
Currently at my body weight of like 272 pounds, I have 19-inch arms.
Okay.
Normally when I'm like 250s to 260, I rock around 18.
That's crazy.
With probably it's big arms, but it's not obviously that big for somebody at my body weight. But it's big arms though,
Right.
especially the one that doesn't isolate them.
That's crazy, eh? What about the body fat percentage? How does that play a role?
I would say, of course, extra body fat percentage will add to the measurement. And my body fat percentage right now is probably like I would say around 22, 23,
Okay. And
maybe 20, but 22 or 23.
what about using body fat as a tool to get stronger? Like some powerlifters, they'll go from one weight class to the next in an attempt to raise their natural strength. Now, there are some guys who disagree with this philosophy, saying that you should find out what your competitive weight is and milk that for as long as you possibly can. If that means being lean, then there's no point gaining weight. But it's also commonly known that when you gain weight, things like your bench press go up. So what is your take on calorie surpluses or just raising the body fat to increase performance?
I personally think if you're getting stronger at your current body weight, just get stronger for all you can. And if it turns out you're plateauing at your current body weight, then move up.
Okay. And do you think that it's in some cases it's not even a plateau, it's just the fact that people are impatient to gain strength slowly at their current body weight?
I mean, that could be it too. But if you know for a fact that you tried everything, you're plateauing for a long time, then gain body weight slowly.
In your opinion, is a calorie surplus required? Or there's one, they don't need that for just raising strength. They can be in the maintenance phase and they can be just fine. Because a lot of people swear by surplus, saying, hey, you're not going to make any gains if you're not in a surplus.
If you're making gains off of maintenance, then do a maintenance. But if one way or another, then you'll have to eventually go to a surplus. Or every now and then, some days you'll have to do a surplus. Right. But some days you also have to do a maintenance.
Okay.
And if you're getting stronger off a maintenance or even a cut, then do what you're doing.
Okay.
My method really is like, if it works, just continue doing it, whatever works for you. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the saying. So even Ronnie Coleman himself said it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
yeah,
that applies. Do not fix what's not broken. If it works, continue to do it. Just continue doing what works.
Okay, excellent. Now, I wanted to get into your Bulgarian style programming. I'm interested in how you execute it. So can you just give us a rundown for those who are maybe interested in mimicking a similar setup? And what would be the pros and cons of this approach compared to a more classical style?
The pros, you get strong fast, you get fast gains, you could get big gains. The cons is once you do it every few times, it stops working. That you'll have to do something else. Say your 1 rep max on the bench press is 300. You could either do it 5 days a week, or you could do it every other day. I'm giving you an example. Yeah. The first one I've done. My 1 rep max on the working bench, I've done it entering college as a freshman, 2010. I used it for 2 lifts, actually. I couldn't squat because I was nursing an injury on my ankle. And there was no place to do squats. So I did it for sumo, deadlift, and a bench. And this was after a few weeks hiatus. My bench max was 250 pounds. And this was the touch and go. I used 250 pounds. And my squat sumo deadlift was 475. Those were my maxes I tested when I entered freshman year of college. Even though I graduated high school with a 260-pound bench, 405 squat, and a 500 deadlift. Monday, I would do 180 pounds bench. Then Tuesday, I would do 185 bench. And Wednesday, I would do 190 bench. Thursday, I would do 195 bench. And Friday, I would do 200-pound bench. And they would all be for one set of 5.
Okay.
And for deadlifts, I would start maybe with a 365-pound deadlift for a set of 5 on Monday, then a 370-pound deadlift for a set of 5 on Tuesday, then a 375-pound deadlift for a set of 5 Wednesday, then a 380-pound deadlift for a set of 5 Wednesday. So basically, I would do each lift for one set of 5 once a week. Add 5 pounds each day. And if it's a bigger max, I would add like maybe 5 pounds or 10 pounds each day. And it could be for like maybe a 5 or 10 rep max if I'm doing 10s, but this time for 5s. And then by week 4, I'm already doing, or week 3, I would say, I would already do 250 pounds on bench for a set of 5. Or maybe I would say it stops at like 235 for a set of 5 on bench, week 3. And then I can't go anymore. The set of 5 is hard with 235. And this was starting with a 250 max. And then deadlift 2, I get like maybe 475 or 465 for a set of 5 for after like 3-4 weeks. And then I would do 2 weeks of ladder training where I would take my new 5 rep max, say 235 for bench and 465 or 475 for deadlift. I'm trying to recall those numbers. It's been a while. Just giving an example, I would do 2 weeks with those 5 rep max, 3 days a week. I would bench and deadlift. I would do sets of 1, 2, and 3, sets of 1, 2, and 3, sets of 1, 2, and 3. And if the previous set is hard, that's where I stop. Like say after I do a set of 1, it's easy. I do a set of 2, I do a set of 3, then I do a set of 1, and then I do a set of 2. It's hard. I stop there for the day, save it for Monday, and then I do it with both lifts. I'll try to get more or I'll try to get less, or I do that whole thing for 1 week, and then the second week I'll do it for maybe 1, 2, or 3 days. And then the following week, after the 2 weeks of the ladder training, I back off maybe 10, 15 pounds, start the 5, adding 5 pounds each day. And then the 235-pound bench would go to 250 for 5 reps, from 235 to 5 reps, 250 for 5 reps. And this is starting at 250 for 1 rep. And then the 465 or 475 for 5 deadlift goes to 485 for 5. And then I would max out once I take like maybe a week off.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the example of it.
And how much would you gain?
And I would only do those lifts. Like I would do nothing else for shoulder sets and triceps. Unless I decide to shoulder press, but that's a little complicated.
Right.
But that's just the example.
And how much would you gain on an average phase like that?
The first time I've done it, I would say in about 3 months. The first time I've done it. Actually, I've done it for one phase for deadlift. In like less than 3 months, I gained 40 pounds on my bench. I went from 250 to 290 on bench, and in I would say 3 months, I went from, even though my all-time best then was 500, but I started again at 475. In 3 months, I went from 475 deadlift to 585 deadlift, and that was the first video I posted on my YouTube, my 585-pound deadlift.
Well, that's crazy.
That was in about 3 months.
That's very fast progress. But then you said you tried it again a few times and it just stopped working for you.
I mean, it'll either work very little or just not work as much.
Okay.
It only works the very first 1 or 2 times.
Okay.
And then it works a little. The only thing I did to vary it that worked all right the last time I did is when I tried it with 10 rep maxes. And that's when after my powerlifting meet, I was doing a bench, squat, deadlift, and overhead press, weighted chin-up, weighted dips. And I hit new rep maxes above 5 because I've done it for like 4 weeks. Some 10 rep maxes, some 7 rep maxes, some 8 rep maxes, some 6 rep maxes. So that was the second time. The last time it worked.
Okay. Yeah, I find it interesting how the way your setup is a little bit different, and you weren't really maxing out per se, doing singles and stuff like that. And I do want to ask in regards to maxing out, if one is going to do it, should they go above 90%?
The 90% would only be like the last few days when you add the 5 to 10 to 15 pounds, maybe 20 pounds a day. Otherwise, you don't go above. And you really want to ride this for at least 2 weeks minimum. So you want to start it with a weight that that's really no less than 60%, but also a weight that you could add maybe as much weight as you can that you could do for at least 2 to 3 weeks on the program. And another time I was on the Bulgarian type program was when I was squatting every day, where I would just, even in college, I was squatting every day, multiple times a day. I would take a study break, squat. After class, squat. I would eat, squat, and I would just work up to a squat set. And that was multiple times a day, 5 days a week.
Damn. So that's interesting, and I'm glad you shared your take on that. So if someone wants to run a similar setup, they can listen to what you said and try it out. So I want to get back to the subject of general programming, and we are getting closer towards the end of this chat, just so we're clear on that. In regards to Bulgarian, you said you only go at 90% towards the end, but what about in the general sense? If one is going to be including heavy days, a weekly heavy day, for example, would you recommend going balls to the wall 100, or should they really limit it to 90 or 95 at the absolute max?
All right. I mean, that was my Bulgarian programming I just gave you with that law I'm
Yeah.
trying to explain, which was kind of like, man, I'm getting lost in translation, trying to explain my process. But that was me, like, Bulgarian in a programming sense. But if it's like regular Bulgarian, as in 90, 95%, I guess the only time I've done that where I would like go 90, 95%, maybe even 100, that's if I was going for like a near max or a max single. And that was only when I was like going maybe 3, 5 times a day, 5 days a week, just to squat or sometimes bench or whatever, but mainly just to squat.
Okay. And in regards to low repetitions, what are some of your favorite set and rep ranges? Like 3 sets of 1, 5 sets of 1, 5 sets of 2. Can you just list some of your favorite approaches?
I mean, I like 3x3, I like 3x2, I like 4x4, I like 5x5, I like 6x2, I like 6x3, I like 8x2. I like anything really.
Okay.
It just has to work.
Perfect. And that would mainly be done on the heavier days, though, unless you're doing like a speed.
Yeah, I even like one, so I even just like one rep.
Okay. And do you always change that from week to week? Like week 1, 3x3, week 3, 4x3, something like that? Or could you
I
repeat
mean,
the
that's
same
if
sets
I'm
and
not
reps
progressing
weekly?
on. That's not it. That's if I'm not progressing on the low reps. If I'm not progressing on the low reps, I just change it.
Okay.
I change it if I mean if I'm doing low reps and I'm progressing on low reps, I just do the progressive overload, the similar style as the upper higher reps. If not, then I'll just do ones and I'll write out the ones wave. Like I'll just do ones as much as I want. Like just work up to a single.
Okay. So as long as it keeps working, continue doing
Reps.
so. But if you notice that
Exactly.
it's like plateauing, then you switch up the sets and reps, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I know that you're pretty active in the YouTube fitness community. Like you write a lot of comments and stuff like that. What do you extract from the YouTube fitness community that benefits you personally?
Me, beside the entertainment, staying motivated is mainly same thing with Instagram, really, and Facebook. Facebook is not really my
Yeah.
thing, but Instagram and YouTube is really just staying motivated. You know, I'm always motivated, but just being in a community that just does the same thing you do, uh, just staying motivating, watching others, and mostly just it's even beyond lifting sometimes, just like maybe some motivational lifestyle, self improvement type stuff. So, and even talking about stuff that you're actually doing in your training or not training stuff that actually you relate to or stuff that you're going through.
Okay.
I mean, because we're just basically a barbell, and it's basically what we do. But we all have a story. We all have a message. We all have reasons for doing this. I mean, we're more than just our lifts,
Oh, for
really.
sure.
We're more than just our physiques. We all have a story to tell. We're all just after the same things, similar things. Maybe have different beliefs sometimes, but we're all just
Yeah.
searching for something.
For sure. So then I want to end off this video by asking you, like, what would be your message to the fitness community? What is Tobi Alder's final message? What would you say that could be beneficial in changing lives and enhancing people's strength and size game and everything? Like, what is your advice here that could really be helpful?
Well, I would say if you choose to stay natural, don't be discouraged. Your physique and strength will come. Don't try not to be distracted by those who you think have a better life than you. You don't know what someone else is struggling. You don't know who what they've been through to get there. And everything comes with a price. You have to consider that. And everybody basically just wants to survive. And also at the same time, if you choose just get into something. You're never too young or old to get into something. And always ask questions. And just look out for one another. And whatever you choose, even if it's not weights, just dedicate yourself to it, and stand by your message, but put your message out there too. Find something, just dedicate your time to it. If you think it's not working out now, you think your day hasn't come yet, you think your day will never come, just keep trying. Don't give up. Your day will come eventually. You'll eventually have an opportunity. Someone will eventually hear your story. Someone will eventually know your name. Someone will eventually hear your voice. Someone will eventually listen to you. Someone will eventually take you seriously. Just continue doing what you're doing. And stay dedicated. You'll eventually reach your goals. Do it for yourself. Be yourself. Don't change. And if you're going through a tough time now, just stick through it. And think about, if you think nothing is good in your life, and I'm sorry if nothing is, it gets better later on. And you'll think of, and also, man, I'm talking. But anyway, I think I pretty much covered it. You get the message.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that's a fantastic message. And Toby, I want to thank you so much for being here today. I think we had a great chat. There was a lot of informative content. You shared your knowledge and wisdom, experience-based, and I really appreciate your time, and I hope that the viewers enjoyed it as well.
I enjoyed it. It was a good talk. I really appreciate this, Alex.
My pleasure, Toby. So that's all we have for today. Check out his channel. He's a great guy, very smart. And with that said, we will see you next time.